Hey, what's up everybody? It's JoeBoy185 here, and today I want to talk about a game that's going to be releasing soon, Tales of Berseria. Well, mainly releasing soon in Japan in August, but just to let you know, I'm a big fan of the Tales series. I really enjoy them a lot, but in this one, I'm always excited when I hear about a new Tales game be released, but I'm not blind to some of the things, or I'm not ignoring some of the things that has been going on with Tales series as of late that may put people off of Tales games, or people think that the quality isn't as good as it used to be. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today, and about Berseria as a whole, or how the game stands right now. So that's the big question. Can Tales of Berseria deliver as mainly like a Tales game, or an enjoyable game in general? Let's dive right into that. Okay, the first thing I want to jump into is the past Tales games, where a lot of people think that the split or the divide in Tales games, where basically where the drop in quality from Tales games started. A lot of people seem to agree that it started on Tales of Exilia. Some people would say Tales of Greece. It's really, to be honest, an opinion is split on that. See, me personally, I enjoy both Tales and Greece and Tales of Zesteria, since all I really expect from most Tales games is really high-paced action with enjoyable characters, which I felt both games had. But of course, there are some people, not everyone agrees with you about what is enjoyable or not, and some people thought both of those games, or one or two of those games, were lackluster in certain areas. But there are things I too agree with that's lackluster about the games. One of them, let's talk about Tales of Exilia first. One of the main problems in that game is the main areas and the big areas of maps and fields. Really, to be honest, like the fields in the game were all lackluster for the most part. They're all just big areas. Like each of the areas for the game were all very similar to each other, just with different different textures, but everything was laid out very similarly. It was bland and boring for the most part. People were turned off about that, and there was really nothing much else to do on the field but fight monsters and grab the loot on the field. I mean, well, they proved this in Tales of Exilia too. Now there's more missions and stuff to do in the fields, and you can fight bosses from time to time, but it was more of the same. Well, Exilia 2 is nothing but more of an improvement of that anyway. It shared the same flaws Exilia 1 had. Now, a burnt of the problem seems to be coming from Tales of Zesteria. Well, people do say Tales of Exilia 1 was lackluster. Some people enjoy Part 2. Tales of Zesteria is where most people universally just don't like that game. Or they, not so much as they just straight up don't like it, but they think it's average at best, somewhere around there. And I will agree, being a big Tales fan, I also agree that Tales of Zesteria is average at best. Regardless, though, I very much enjoyed the game, despite its flaws. But oh boy, it sure did have flaws, though. Namely one, with the camera in the game. The camera was just horrendous in certain areas, like mainly when you're in corridors and such. Like the camera would shoot right back behind the character or make the character invisible, and it was just terrible. You couldn't see, like I'm playing a game and I can't even see the character that I'm controlling. What's up with that? I don't understand how they could have made a mistake like that. That's one of the negatives. The second negative is the skill system. The skill system was just needlessly complex. Seriously, it was needlessly complex in the way they handled things in that game, and most people just did not like it. Okay, so the skill system was that the skills were like stat based, like fire resistance plus a certain percent, or beast, increasing damage versus beast type enemies, stuff like that. But you can stack these skills to get a stronger effect. Now this is where the problem came in. The game has something called Normans, in which a lot of the Normans, you can use them to farm, or you can use them to farm skills in the game. So it requires you to do a lot of grinding just to fuse together pieces of equipment to get the right things, stacked on top of each other. That was just way too time consuming and annoying and boring, especially considered to the past systems they had in the game previously. It was just a very frustrating system and very complex to explain to people. I mean, early in the game when they were trying to teach about the skill system, they literally had about 4 to 5 skits with a character like straight up telling you how to use the skill system. Yeah, it was just bad like that. And that was their form of a tutorial too, through skits. It was just bad. Like, no, I don't ever want to see that skill system return again. And it's something a lot of people kind of share the same sentiments on the skill system. No one liked it, really, to be honest. The third problem was Zesteria with really the battle system. Now, okay, I understand the game restricted your party access for starters. You can only have 2 humans, right? 2 human characters and 2 Seraphim characters. Okay. The problem with that is you can't switch the human characters out at all. You kind of only can switch the Seraphim in and out. There was a reason for this. It was a mechanic for it, which you could fuse with the characters, like Soray with Etna. Like Etna, she's an Earth Elemental Seraph, and if you fuse her, you have like an Earth Elemental fusion, like to fight people with. Okay, that sounded cool and all, but it gets really repetitive. Number one, the fusion forms just weren't really drawn out at all. They only had like a little 3 attack string. Like they only had like a little small 3 attack strings and a very limited amount of spells. I think the most a fusion form get a spell is about 4 to 5. It's very lackluster and very boring to play as. The problem with that is, another problem with that is, they kind of forced you to play with these characters. At least in your first playthrough, you were forced to fuse. You had really no other choice when it came to certain other bosses. Usually they tank you and kill you really fast in 1 or 2 hits. That happened a lot to me in my playthrough. It's either you have to use the complex system for all the fusion, or fuse with your character to beat a boss, and both were annoying to do. It just wasn't something I appreciated that much. Even though I bear with it. I've beaten the game. I've beaten plenty of Telltale games, including Legendia. And in my opinion, I still think Legendia is worse than Zesteria, but that's just me. At least in terms of gameplay story, I think Legendia's story is better. Yeah, it was just terrible. I don't think that Tell's, and sure, I just don't think that Tell's game should restrict you that much when it comes to your party formation. That's really a huge part of the fun, especially when they're forcing a system mechanic on you that's cool at first, fun at first, but get very repetitive down the line. Okay, so what did we talk about so far when it came to this series? We talked about the story, the skill system, the character switching. That was pretty much the 3 worst things of that game, really. Now I would talk about the story, but to be honest, yeah, I mean the story was pretty generic. It wasn't really anything too exciting, but I never really played Tell's games necessarily for the story. Tell's games never really had that great, phenomenal story. Tell's games never had that kind of like phenomenal story. To me, it was always the characters. Like, I always enjoyed the characters in Tell's games, and I actually, to be honest, I enjoyed the characters of Zesteria and Exilia as well. Yeah, they weren't as good as like previous characters in Tell's games, but they were still enjoyable, you know. And it's really hard for me to judge on things like that, like try to tell them to make better. I mean, yeah, you can tell them, I guess they just need a different writer or a better writer. Probably give whoever's writing these games a break. I need to do more research on who actually write the plot, so I can't really say too much about that. I'm mainly focusing on the gameplay. Now for Tales of Berseria. I think that Tales of Berseria, so far from what I'm seeing, is really improving upon these things. You know, for one, they fixed the camera. 2, they fixed the skill system. You know, it no longer requires you to do all that stacking and stuff. You can actually take your skill, actually learn it, and you get to actually keep it permanently. And I guess you may be able to stack and all that from down there. Not too sure. I need to get my hands on the game first. The maps and all that, they all look pretty much fine to me. Yes, they look like Zesteria. I understand it's still the same graphic engine, but I mean, it's still a PS3 game. They haven't really moved over to PS4. When they do truly move to PS4 only games, that's when I'm expecting them to improve their graphics. But aside from that, everything else looks fine. At least it looks real fine from the trailers. But to be honest, the same thing was said for Xillia. Xillia looked great in the trailers, but then you got it. It was pretty generic. Zesteria in trailers was it was like hit and miss. But Berseria, the trailers for when you're watching the trailers for the game, they're really hyped. They get me hyped for the game, and I'm excited to play the game. But I do have my eyes open. I do realize that I might end up buying the game, and it may just end up repeating the same mistakes previous Tales games has made. I don't know, but I'm just glad that from the things I've seen so far, I am proven wrong. But we're not out of the woods just yet. I guess we should wait and see how the Japanese react to the game and receive it. Then we'll go fairly judge it then, or when the American release. So what do you guys think? Do you think that Tales of Berseria can deliver as a pretty good or a great Tales game? At least one better than Xillia 1, 2, and Zesteria? I mean, personally, I don't think it could get any worse than Legendary or Zesteria, really. I think that was that point. That was the point of no return right there. I think Berseria can go nowhere but up. But I don't know. Everyone has their own opinion about that. So let me know in the comments below. And please subscribe if you enjoyed this video or enjoy videos like these, because I will be making more like Tales videos and stuff like that. But not so much just about Tales games, other RPGs as well. So you can look forward for that. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.